Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe. He is Chris Fedor. NBA Finals edition. The Cavaliers and Warriors finally going to get things going later tonight, 9 o'clock tip-off, Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We're going to talk to Chris Haynes about that. Then we are going to talk some Browns with Kay Cabot. They continued OTAs this week, and the Indians still kind of go in the right direction.
The who?
Fedor. The Indians.
The who?
I don't know. We're going to talk to Paul Hoynes from Kansas City as well as they wrap up a series there against their division rival. But as promised, joining us via phone is Chris Haynes. Chris, how are you?
Doing all right, guys.
All right, Chris. I know you just have put up a column about a lot of national folks not giving the Cavaliers much of a chance. But, I mean, locally, as you'd expect, I think a lot of folks not giving the Warriors much of a chance. Do you think Cavs fans are maybe taking this Warriors team a little too lightly?
I think so, maybe a little bit. But, what has happened is, like, since I've been here, it's not just, media contingent that's based in Oakland. This is the national people. These are other beat writers for other teams that's here. And overwhelmingly, man, it's just been Warriors. I'm hearing 5 games, 6 games, and a couple of people I won't name, even says a sweep. And so that has been kind of surprising for me to hear because, I have no rooting interest whatsoever. I just think the Cavaliers are going to be able to put up a fight. And I picked the Cavs in 6 based solely on LeBron James, his experience, and just how dialed in he is right now. So I've definitely been taken back a little bit, but just by how everybody just thinks the Warriors just going to run away with this, man.
Chris, yesterday was media day. You were around the Cavs. You were around the Warriors. What's the vibe around the Cavs right now as they get ready for their first NBA Finals since 2007?
They're focused, Fedor. They're tuned in, man. They're in the right mindset, the right frame of mind. I know it's easy to say that before a game, but, if there was ever a look or a vibe that you need to see or feel prior to the game tipping off, the Cavs have that. And I think it all starts from LeBron James, just the way he goes about his business. And, he's informing his players and telling them how they should go about it. And you can tell they're just feeding off LeBron, man. And I really do think these guys are ready. I can give my prediction and say what I think is going to be who's going to win, but ultimately we all don't know. And I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I definitely think they're prepared, and I think they're ready to go.
Chris, we know about Oracle Arena and how crazy that place is, how tough it is to win, but early in this game tonight, at least, could that be an advantage for the Cavaliers? Maybe the Warriors come out a little too amped up. LeBron's been here before. He can kind of take over a game early. Do the Cavs have a little bit of an edge there if the Warriors do come out a little too hyped?
Maybe. LeBron, I'm not one to harp on the experience that much because I do think at the end of the day, it is basketball. And the fact of the matter is they are at home, and they're virtually unbeatable at home. So, I think they do have the edge regardless of how quickly they start off or how slow they start off. Man, this is a tough place. It's one of the top 3 toughest places to play at in this league. So, if people or the so-called experts are predicting, win based on solely off a home court advantage, I can understand why because this is about as hostile as an environment as it can get.
Chris, one of the big questions with the Cavs, it's been the same thing since the first round against Boston. How do they cope with the injury to Kyrie Irving? How does he cope with the injury that he's dealing with? What can we expect from Kyrie, and what do you think is the biggest challenge for him going into the finals, given the condition that he's in?
Just mental. It's all a mental game with this guy. There's no structural damage from what we've all been told with his knee. It's just a matter of him playing with pain and finding ways where he can still be effective and help the team and not getting down on himself. He's talked about, the last couple of days just about, seeing holes in defense and wanting to make a move, and his body just won't allow him to do it. And you have to understand when he's saying that, he's also saying that he gets down on himself, like that he can't make that move. It's just so depressing. He feels so defeated. He has to get out of that type of mindset. Yeah, okay, your body's not going to allow you to do that. Now what? What you going to do now? You know what I mean? So what's the next step? How can you be effective? How can you help this team? Nobody wants to hear about, hey, I can't do this. I see this and that, and my body won't let me. All right, forget that. Find a way to get the job done. because at this point, at this stage of the season, everybody's banged up. I spoke with Andrew Bogut last night, and he basically told me how he was tired of hearing about Kyrie Irving's knee. And he said everybody's going through contusions, arthritis, all these type of pains. He don't want to hear about it. So that's what Kyrie Irving has to get to that point within his mentality to say, hey, I may be limited, but I'm a superstar in my own right, and I'm somehow, some way, I'm going to go out there and help my team win.
So that being said, Chris, what's a reasonable expectation for Kyrie Irving in this series?
You know what? It's just about, I think he can still give you 20 a night. It's going to have to be on an efficient basis because I don't think you can ask too much of him. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this as well too. Let me just throw this out there. I haven't written this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie and Cavs are milking this injury a little bit more than what it should be. You know what I mean? Because, Kyrie is a guy, even throughout the season, man, he is real guarded when it comes to divulging his injuries and even talking about injuries. And so now, all of a sudden, he's talking about it every day. And I understand we're asking about it every day. But Kyrie could simply hey, man, I'm all right. I'm going to play. Leave it at that. But he's been much more open about talking about this injury. They're trying to set the Warriors up. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that's what's happening. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit more healthier than what they're letting on. And so I think what's reasonable, I think he can still go out there and give you 20 a night. Because when you play with LeBron, he simplifies things so much for you.
Chris, so many people, when they talk about the Golden State Warriors, they talk about the Splash Brothers with Stephen Curry, the league MVP, and Klay Thompson, the second leading scorer. But give me another guy on Golden State that you think could have a big impact in this series.
It's going to answer, but Draymond Green, man. And the reason I say him, because he's a dual threat person. He's somebody that can score, rebound, and be a playmaker. And one thing about Draymond, when he has that matchup against Tristan Thompson, whoever's guarding him, once he's hitting that three-point shot, then that's going to force Tristan to have to close out on him, and that's just going to open up the lane for Draymond Green to either score for himself or make plays for other people, because big men aren't accustomed. They're not used to going out there, having a contest out there on the three-point line. So now if you got a guy who you have to go out there and contest, and then somebody who could put on the floor and make plays, that's just going to make him that much dangerous. So I think Draymond Green, if his three-point shot is going in to keep the defense honest, I think he can be a tremendous problem for the Cavs.
All right, Chris, thanks for the time.
Take care, guys.
All right, that is Chris Haynes, our Cavaliers beat reporter. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Mary Kay Cabot talking Browns. All right, we're back, and now we're going to talk Browns. We bring in our Browns beat reporter, Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
Doing all right, Mary Kay. Another week of OTAs, and let's get right to it. Johnny Manziel, he had that bottle throwing incident over the weekend. It seems like the fan that was asking for his autograph was going way over the top. But again, it's Johnny Manziel in the news. It's Manziel in the news in a negative way. Mike Pettin called it a non-story. Right now, what are your thoughts on that incident and how Mike Pettin played it?
Well, you know what? I actually think that, I understand what Mike was trying to do by saying it's a non-story, but really anything involving Johnny and Johnny, kind of losing his temper and being involved in a fan incident is a story. So, I do think that Mike could have handled that a little bit differently. I think he could have said, look, we've looked into it. We are comfortable that Johnny didn't throw the bottle directly at the fan, that he was just trying to kind of spike it in frustration. He was being heckled for a few hours and, was kind of pushed beyond his limits. We've talked to him about it, and, we're comfortable with the resolution of this, and we're going to move on from this, and we don't feel it's a distraction. I think that would have been the right answer. I don't think saying it's a non-story is the right answer. When you look back to last offseason, they kept on saying Johnny in Vegas is a non-story. Johnny is on a swan is a non-story. You can't keep dismissing these things as non-stories. They're little incidents, little brush fires that you have to address and that you have to put out. But it's good that he's defending his guys. His guys will know that he has their back. But by the same token, I think you have to look at this and say, okay, maybe it's a little red flag. Maybe Johnny has to do something a little differently in these situations. Maybe he has to disconnect quicker. But whatever the case may be, it's something more than a non-story.
Mary Kay, do you think they're handling Johnny Manziel in the media different than they're handling Johnny Manziel behind closed doors?
Yeah, probably. I think that Mike probably does want to send the message publicly, get off this kid's back. He just got out of rehab. We're trying to, minimize the distractions in his life. We're trying to keep things kind of calm and let him get a chance to recover. And I'm sure I know they talked to him. He admitted that he had a conversation with Johnny about it. So, yes, I do think they're probably handling it a little bit differently and saying, look, you have to keep yourself out of these type of situations. And for a while, Johnny might just have to kind of stay out of the public eye. That's the hardest thing for Johnny. He loves the spotlight. You're going to see him at these Cavs games. He's supposed to be at Joe Haden's celebrity softball tournament on Saturday night. Out in East Lake. I just think that, he might want to keep a little bit of a lower profile. Now, I don't think he should stay away from the Cavs games. That's a huge, phenomenal thing that he can do. But, after that, you got to go home right now. Right now, go home and don't take part in all the post-game festivity.
Mary Kay, how much do you think this wears on other players as well? I mean, Joe Haden the other day spent, 3-4 minutes answering questions about Johnny Manziel in this incident. Does that start to wear on guys in that locker room?
Yeah, I do think it wears on some of them. When I look back to the Browns Foundation golf outing and I was asking Paul Kluber about, Johnny, moving into his neighborhood. And, he did seem a little bit annoyed by the line of questioning and by talking about Johnny Manziel when, he's come off an 11-sack season and, and those kind of things. So I do think that some players are sick and tired of it. And that's why I think Johnny does have to, I'm not saying that he should hole up in the house and not do anything, but, he's starting to be out and about a lot. And I frankly don't know if he's emotionally ready to handle everything that's going to come at him right now. Therefore, laying low is not the worst thing to do for him right now.
Mary Kay, when it comes to Johnny Manziel, Ray Farmer has talked about him and said that, they still believe in him, still believe that he can be a successful quarterback. Mike Pettin has talked about Johnny Manziel. New offensive coordinator John DeFilippo has talked about him. If you read between the lines, where does this organization stand with Johnny?
They're in wait-and-see mode. They're waiting to see if he can work his aftercare program and stay on the straight and narrow. They're waiting to see if he can develop into an NFL quarterback. They don't know the answer to any of those questions yet, and no one really does. They needed to take care of A before they could move on to B, and right now he's a work in progress. I see things on the football field. Right now, people can't get too worked up about what you see in OTAs. The offense they're in install mode. They're learning a whole new scheme. They don't even know exactly what a game plan would look like yet until they find out who can do what. So I don't think anybody should get too worked up by what they're seeing in practice. Besides, there's a couple other things to consider. Johnny's working with the second-team offense primarily. That's going to look a little different than when you're working with the first-team offense. And also, a lot of times he's going up against one of the best secondaries. Sometimes he works against the first-team defense. He's going up against the Joe Hadens and the Dante Whitners. And it's a tremendous secondary. It really is. So they are way ahead of the offense right now, but I just don't think that you can get too alarmed about what you see.
Mary Kay, you mentioned that secondary, and of course last week Dante Whitner put it right up there with Seattle as far as secondaries in the league. A lot of talk about how good they can be if Tashaun Gipson comes back. When can we expect Gipson to actually show up?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of a process, I think. I don't think he's ready to come back yet, and there's a couple of key dates coming up, and that is on June 15th, the Browns have a little bit of leverage right now in that they can reduce his offer to 10% of his base salary last year, which works out to $127,000 for 2015, as opposed to the 2-point-something million he would play if he signed the tender. So that's June 15th. That can start happening. And then June 16th is the beginning of the mandatory minicamp. And if he doesn't show up for that, that's really a very strong contract stand that he would be taking. I don't know what their strategy is for that yet, but, that's something to circle in red and try to see where they are going with this. I think ultimately the Browns have the money and would like to keep Tashaun around. So I do believe that they'll probably get it worked out, but I think there's going to be some bumps along the way.
Mary Kay, I know it's only OTAs and you only put so much stock into OTAs, and we've seen guys during OTAs go on to get cut in training camp, but who has stood out to you so far?
Well, who looked good the other day was Duke Johnson was very impressive the other day. You can see the burst, the acceleration, the explosiveness. All of the running backs actually look pretty good. They're, the three guys from last year, Terrence West, Isaiah Crowell, and Glenn Winston. I mean, they're all now another year in the NFL, and I think those guys are ready to take it up to the next level, and I think Duke's going to press them for playing time. So those guys look good. From the receiver standpoint, Dwayne Bowe tweaked his knee the other day. Don't know if he's, practicing yet today or not. If not, he should be back by next week. But there's a couple of guys that are banged up on the receiving corps, so we can't really tell what that's going to look like yet. Brian Hartline rode the bike the other day. Vince Mailey's got his thumb in a cast. So once again, I don't think anybody should be too alarmed about any of that. But then, there's some young guys that are starting to look pretty good out there. Nate Orchard, I think he's showing some good things, some good burst and some good acceleration. Again, they're not in contact situations right now, but you can kind of see, who has the athletic ability at this point. Danny Shelton not around, we know that. He's not there, and I think he's going to fall behind a little bit, but he should be able to catch up by the training camp runs around, and then Cam Irving, they're moving him all over the place. So they just really kind of need to find a home for him. He worked at left tackle the other day, so that's one to watch.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter. Thanks for the time, Mary Kay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to talk And now we're back. We're going to talk Indians. We bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes, joining us from Kansas City. Hoynesy, what's going on?
Hi, guys.
All right. Hoynesy, why can't Corey Kluber beat the Royals? What's going on here?
That's a great question because before this year, he had no problem beating them. I think they've kind of designed a strategy to jump on Kluber early. If you look at the 3 games he's lost, they've had one big inning in each game that's kind of turned the tide, and then Kluber has pitched pretty well. And we saw that last night in the 3rd inning. They swung early in the count. They got on base, and they eventually beat them, and they beat them 4-2. And, after the 3rd inning, he pitched like Corey Kluber pitches, but by then it was too late. And it's kind of a pattern. If you look at the 3 starts, that's the way it's worked. And Kluber throws his fastball early in the count. He really pounds it. He tries to establish it. And they're out there swinging at the first straight pitch they see.
All right, Hoynesy, so I'm going to dig into the Indians' schedule as of late, and I want you to tell me why I should buy in and think that it's more than the Indians taking advantage of just a great run here when they played the Cincinnati Reds, the Chicago White Sox, the Texas Rangers. I'm not seeing like big-name teams that the Indians were able to beat during this stretch. So am I supposed to buy into this team that they really have turned the corner, or are they just taking advantage of what the schedule is allowing them right now?
I think it's a little of both. You got to play the schedule. You can't change up teams and say you're going to play the Detroit Tigers 162 times a year. You play what the schedule says. You play who the schedule says you play, and it's that old baseball axiom. You kill the bums and play 500 against the good teams, and that's what they're that's what you try to do, and this is it's gonna be. I just think they started off in their division, that I think 17 of their first 20, 21 games in the Central, and they caught Detroit, White Sox, Minnesota, Kansas City when they were all playing well. And that really put them in a hole. And I mean, they didn't help themselves, obviously. But I don't know. I don't know why I think you just got to ride the schedule out here. They are playing better. They've won 11 of the last 15 games. The starting pitching, I think, is a key. That is pitched. They pitch very well, and that to me, that no matter who you play is going to help you win games. Offensively, they had a great May. They finished third in the American League in runs scored. So people who say, they're not scoring enough runs, they are scoring enough runs. The offense is there. Defensively, it's still a big question mark. I think that hurts them. The bullpen looks to me like it's finally coming around. So, you put those things together, plus the schedule where, you get a soft spot in the schedule, you play well. So now, you look at the upcoming, let's see, in June, what do you got? You got Baltimore, Seattle, Detroit. You get back into the division in June. So we'll see how that goes.
Paul, you mentioned Detroit. They're coming back down to earth. They haven't been playing well lately. The Royals even coming back down a little bit. But what is going on with the Minnesota Twins?
The Twins, they're not taking no for an answer. They have just, under Paul Molitor, they pitched a lot better than I think people thought. Trevor May, those guys. Phil Hughes has pitched. He had a great season last year, but he's pitching very well. They get Danny Narasco, whoever that guy's name is. He comes off the DL and pitches well. The closer, they've got a good bullpen. So they pitched well. And, if you look at the stats from last year, I think they might have led the American League after the All-Star break in hitting. So, they've that's no surprise. They're kind of doing it with guys that, really nobody has heard of, but they're playing very, very well. Will it last? I don't know. I think the starting pitching is a big question with them. And, that's kind of their Achilles heel. But right now they're having a great run, and you just kind of ride it.
So looking at certain teams that are leading their division right now, Hoynesy, not necessarily some teams that people expected. Give me, between these two teams, and I know Minnesota has been bumped out of that spot by Kansas City, but Minnesota being a surprise in the Central, more sustainable, or the Houston Astros in the AL West?
I think the Astros in the AL West.
Really?
It's not as difficult a division. I think they're that they are really, they're loaded. I think they're playing well, and you don't play this well for 2 months of the season and just kind of collapse. I don't think. So I would think that the Astros are going to hang in there. That's between those two picks. I think that the AL Central is bound to. It's kind of a war of attrition in the Central. I think they're going to wear each other down, but. The AL West is not as strong as it usually is. It's been down, Oakland is down. Seattle, for some reason, I don't know what's wrong with that club, but But they have great, they have a great lineup, and they're not scoring runs. Texas has a lot of injuries, and the Angels just can't seem to get going. I mean, they're hovering right around 2 or 3 games above 500. So I think the Astros, are a pretty good bet right now.
Lindsay, I think Manny Acta would have something to say about playing well for a couple months and then collapsing.
Yeah, but I don't think AJ Hinch is going to have a clubhouse revolution on his hands. If he's smart, he won't.
The Astros have actually been building to this for a little while. They were on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
A little while?
Remember when they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated? It was like the 2018 World Champs.
Well, this is what happens when you lose 100 games in a row for 5. You get a lot of high picks, and whether you're good or not, you're bound to hit on a couple.
All right, Paul Hoynes joining us from Kansas City. Talk to you later, Hoynesy.
Thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, we'll have Bud Shaw's spinoffs. Hey, and as promised, we deliver Bud Shaw's spinoffs.
Thanks, guys. Well, the Cavs Golden State series is finally upon us. And I think we can all agree that the NBA should never again wait 8 days between the conference finals and its showcase event. Not necessarily because it's a momentum killer for the teams, though we may find that to be true if Game 1 is a ragged affair, and certainly not because the delay has driven down anticipation. It hasn't. This matchup is still very appealing on so many levels. The storylines are so good that the drum roll is still audible. Now, the reason there shouldn't be a delay like this ever again is that it gave Cavs fans too much time to consider the storylines that really have nothing to do with what happens between LeBron James and Steph Curry. Like how long it's been since a parade was held in Cleveland. I mean, LeBron can say he appreciates what it means to Northeast Ohio, but it happened, 20 years before he was born? Commenting on a story about the 51-year title drought, Pizza Man asks if the drought is a technicality since, a team that was once the Cleveland Browns became the Baltimore Ravens and won a Super Bowl. I was at the Ravens Super Bowl win when Art Modell did his version of the Super Bowl Shuffle with Ray Lewis. And I can assure you that what I don't remember thinking is, phew, finally, the drought is over. I do remember thinking, break a leg, and not because that's what they say in show business for good luck. Another popular topic this week has been the comparison of the 2007 Cavs with this Cavs team. Again, it's a product of having too much time on our hands. This supporting cast without Kevin Love and with a hobbled Kyrie Irving is still better. How much? I don't know. Crazy Carolina says Kyrie, Thompson, Shumpert, and Smith are all better than anyone in 2007, and that he might throw Mozgov in there as well. Well, this would probably come as a surprise to Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Larry Hughes. But again, why quibble over something that really doesn't much matter? What we do know is that 8 days is certainly long enough for doubt to set in a sports town where the supply of angst is second only to the supply of road salt. Our Maestros writes that we are just being set up for the most epic disappointment of all. He goes on to say it will make the shot, fumble, blah, 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 pale by comparison. Well, that's the spirit. What do they say in those financial investment commercials? Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Well, the same applies here. And lastly, the clinching piece of evidence in my mind that says 8 days is way too long of a layoff between NBA playoff series comes from a username that I can't pronounce, but it's there for you to read. And it says simply, Caitlin is better than Fedor.
That guy doesn't like me.
To which I'd have to agree, Fedor Jenner? Doesn't work for me. Guys?
But I feel like I know what the Super Bowl feels like now.
Doesn't Fedor Jenner sound more like a Tolkien character?
Yeah,
like
I would say
Frodo?
so.
Or, all right, go ahead. What?
I feel like I know what the Super Bowl feels like now. These 8 days off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's still going to be like another 2 weeks before we know who wins.
Yeah, at least, right? When's the final day? It can't happen later than... Can it happen later than July 4th?
Yeah, I think
August. It's got to end before next season starts, I think.
Right around my birthday, September 21st, I think.
So to be clear, you're picking what?
I'm picking Cavs in 7. In other words, I have absolutely no idea, so I'm going to pick the team that's got the best player.
Dan?
I got to say this without getting much hate. I'm picking the Cavs. I'm probably going to be wrong.
Wait, what? Wait,
just-
what?
Is that less decisive than Chris or more decisive? I can't tell.
I actually think the Warriors are going to win.
Well,
You are the only Cleveland person that I've come in contact with that actually believes the Warriors are
Well,
going
I
to win.
mean, if you're asking for my pick, I'm going to pick
I
the
want
Warriors.
your real
Okay.
pick. I don't want you to placate to the
Then
fans.
I'm going to take the Warriors in 6.
Don't you guys find it a little bit surprising that there's not much trepidation in this town about this series? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, usually people are like, oh, like
Yeah.
this guy that I mentioned, oh, what's going to go wrong next? Most of the people I talk to think the Cavs are going to win.
Yes.
And some don't think it'll be all that competitive of a series.
Well, I think a lot of the logic, too, comes from, like I can't pick against LeBron James, but
Right.
it's not like LeBron hasn't lost to finals before.
True.
So, I just think the Warriors are a better, deeper team.
I mean, the logic of I can't pick against LeBron James has worked 2 of the last 11 years. So that percentage really isn't in your favor. But Bud, to your point, I feel like people don't watch Golden State. Look, they're on at 10:30, maybe 10:45 certain times. Not a lot of people in Cleveland are going to stay up till 1:15 to watch
True.
an NBA game like the Warriors. And I feel like there's a perception about Golden State that has been built over the last couple of years. And it's not actually who they are. Like, there's this perception that they're not tough and they're not physical. You don't luck your way into the #1 defense in the NBA playing in the Western Conference if you can't be tough and physical. Draymond Green's one of the toughest dudes in the NBA. Andrew Bogut is probably the toughest center in the NBA. But yet there's this perception because their 2 best players are guards that they can't be tough and physical and they can't score inside. And I think it's flawed.
Well, I'll say one thing. The most surprising prediction I've heard this week is yours.
Mine?
Yeah,
Really?
because you are a guy who spends time watching Golden State.
Right.
And I know you have a lot of respect for them.
I do. I think they're the better team.
That's why I'm surprised.
I think they're the better team, but I think if you get into a Game 7, I think there's one guy in the NBA, and only one guy, and Jordan was like this back in the day, that can shift an entire series in his direction. And it's not Steph Curry, it's not Klay Thompson, it's not Draymond Green, it's LeBron.
And why I agree with you is that we've seen him in the last couple series have games where he didn't play by his standards particularly well and still have that effect on the series.
And that's the thing. He's having an effect right now on all of his teammates. Matthew Dellavedova is playing better than he probably should at this point. Iman Shumpert's all of a sudden making threes. I don't know where that came from. So when you have a guy who's playing at the level that LeBron's playing at and instilling confidence in his teammates the way that he is, that's a dangerous combination.
All right, one last question. We have time for this?
Yeah,
Of course.
let's do it.
I want to give this commenter a fair shake. The guy who was talking about not that guy.
No, not that guy.
The 2007 team. If you were drafting from the 2007 Cavs and this team today,
Yeah.
do you take either Larry Hughes or Z before you take the guys that he mentioned? I would.
You would take Larry Hughes?
Before I would take Shumpert? Yeah, I would.
If you give me Larry Hughes for that 3 months before he hurt his finger,
Well, okay.
maybe.
But wait, wasn't
But I'm
Larry
just
Hughes-
saying, those Z and Larry Hughes were not, scrub players
Right.
back in the day. That was my point. To say that you would take Shumpert, Thompson, Smith, Mozgov ahead of those 2 guys, I think is not fair.
But if you think about the team setup back in 2007, couldn't you make the argument that Larry Hughes was the second best player on that team, or he was supposed to be the second best player?
Supposed to
on that
be,
team?
for sure.
So then the comparison is Larry Hughes versus Kyrie, isn't it?
Well, I mean, this guy's claiming that he would take all of those guys I mentioned before he would take anybody on the 2007 team, and that's what I thought was just a little bit overstated. Would you take Mozgov or Z? Are you going to tell me
I would
Mozgov?
take Z.
I'd take Z.
You said it reluctantly.
I did because of what Mozgov brings to this team and what you need to win a championship.
I
You
think
got to have a
against-
big guy that can protect.
And
the
against the Warriors, I'd rather have Z than
rim.
Moscow.
Here we go. Now you're breaking
Right?
down the matchups.
Give me the
Start
guy that
digging
can
into
actually,
the series.
Give me the guy that can actually step out a little bit.
Well, we could talk about this all the way up till 9 o'clock
Yes.
tonight, but we won't.
They'll
I think
probably
there's
get
some
mad
folks
at
in
us.
that other room that wouldn't be real happy if we did. All right, that'll do it for Sports Insider. Thanks, Mary Kay Cabot, Chris Haynes, And of course, Paul Hoynes, Chris Fedor, Bud Shaw, I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.